we are going to structure our governance and governmental arrangements. But he stresses that this is
seconds. Good morning. Welcome to another edition of our post-cabinet press briefing. My name is Robert Nestor Morgan. I am Minister without portfolio in the Office of the Prime Minister. This morning, to present to you, we will have Minister Daryl Vaz, who is in charge of Energy and Technology, Minister Mati Samuda, who is Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, in charge of Water and the Environment. We also have Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Senator the Honorable Kamina Johnson-Smith, who will also be giving us some updates on some upcoming events. Due to the number of ministers who will be presenting here, I will not be doing our regular cabinet notes, and I will just go straight to Minister Samuda. But before I go, I want to make a short comment to members of the media who are here, and I want to also welcome those online who are watching. Last week, I believe, we celebrated World Press Freedom Day. Jamaica fell in its rankings. We still are a bit confused as to why we fell in the rankings, as we have done a lot of work over the years in dealing with press freedom and media freedom. There were some comments regarding access to information that was mentioned, but we still are seeking more information on that. I think about 2 evenings ago, there was an incident that took place at the political party headquarters, which is not the Jamaica Labour Party, where, based on the recordings we have heard, a journalist was threatened with rape, and there were also criticisms of the journalists about the color clothes that they were wearing, and there was some level of intimidation towards the journalists. I've said it in a press release on behalf of the government. I said it in Parliament yesterday, and I want to reiterate it here, Minister Samuda and Minister Vaz, that this government rejects, is upset, and is very uncomfortable with anyone or any organization that facilitates, allows, does not stop immediately any threat of intimidation against any media personnel in Jamaica. We see the media as our partners in informing the public on the important matters of state and of government. And I want to assure all members of the media here, as long as I am the minister given responsibility by the Prime Minister for information, and wearing my other hat as PR chairman of the Jamaica Labour Party, that I will never tolerate any such behavior from anyone within the organization against journalists. We have had incidents at post-cabinet press briefing before our time where journalists had their mics taken away and aggressive behavior was done towards journalists. That will never happen here. We believe in professionalism. We believe in accommodation. You will ask us tough questions. That is your job. Our job is to know the right answers. So I want to assure members of the media of our consistent, and I want to say our commitment towards press freedom, towards ensuring the safety of journalists who are carrying out their duties in what I consider very challenging circumstances at times. And that's the commentary I wish to make on that. We've seen a statement from Reporters Without Borders raising concerns about the incident, and my worry is that next year when the report comes out, that our hard-fought gains of press freedom rankings will once again be impacted, and that's something that we need to spend the next several months trying to recover from so that it may not happen. But we will continue working with you as a government. Whatever concerns you may have, feel free. My number is always on, as you know, to reach out. And with that said, I would like to invite Minister Matthew Samuda to attend upon the platform to make a commentary on water in the East with specific focus on Portland. Minister Samuda.
Good morning, all. Thank you, Minister Morgan, for the opportunity to address PostCab again this week. Allow me to acknowledge colleague Ministers Johnson Smith and Darrell Vaz, welcoming members of the media and indeed any members of the public who are joining us online. The issue of water is brought front and center when there is any disruption in supply. The disruptions in Jamaica generally come when there's disruptions to our rainfall because of seasonal drought or from mechanical failure from our aging network. As of October 2022, as the Prime Minister would have updated the country yesterday, Jamaica started receiving less rainfall. Now, persons here should recall that October is generally the month that we receive the greatest rainfall for the year. But we started receiving less than average, 30-year average rainfall as far back as October last year. This continued through November and December 2022, and January 2023 and February 2023, it worsened. Now, following those months, we were 21% below average in October, 33% below average in November, 50% below average in December, 68% below average in January, and 72% below average in February. There was some recovery in March, where we were about 5% below 30-year average in that month, but that was not sufficient to help us recover from the significant fall-off in rainfall as far back as October last year. It's also important to note that though you were 5% below your 30-year average in March, March is your statistically driest month. So it is not a month that would have given you sufficient rainfall to recharge your aquifers or to replenish your river supply systems. Now, though the data is still out for April because much of our systems are indeed manual, all suggests that the situation would have actually deteriorated from March and we would have had reduced rainfall again in April. The important factor for citizens to understand additionally is that the rainfall doesn't blanket the entire island. There is differences in regional rainfall, and that is something that has affected us and has affected the eastern end of the island disproportionately. But before we dive into the eastern end of the island, I want to make an important point. An analysis of the data comparing rainfall accumulated from October to the end of February would show that it was the driest period in Jamaica's recorded history when you compare all the weather stations. So that is what we are facing, and that disproportionately would have affected the east. Now, something I would like to do going forward, certainly using the opportunity for ministerial statements during sittings of the Senate, and indeed when Minister Morgan can accommodate me at PostCab, is to go through the specific impacts that you're having in different parts of the country and the plans that are being taken under consideration. Now, it's particularly important that we address what is happening in eastern Jamaica this morning, because the projections coming from our own Met Service and indeed regional partners project that there is a 40% possibility of us having a drier than usual 3 months ahead, including May. Now, May is our second traditionally wettest period for the year. That is a problem coming off of reduced rainfall as we have had since October last year. We've seen where, because the rain falls disproportionately, our rivers and water systems coming out of the cockpit country heading into the west have not largely been impacted. So your small municipal systems in these areas are not feeling the sort of pinch. However, when we look to the rivers in the east, certainly your rivers in St. Mary, Portland, and St. Thomas, we are seeing the hydrological impact of the drought, and it is indeed severe. Now, these rivers and underwater systems impact not just NWC, which is, as we know, a major supplier of potable water, but it also impacts smaller municipal systems that tend to be outside of what we would classify as a utility footprint. Now, the impact of this river flow, as we turn to Portland, I can tell you has affected some water systems disproportionately. Water systems that are seeing lower levels than we've ever recorded in some places such as Haining, in the Packy River, in Norwich, in Windsor Forest, in Turtle Crawl, in Long Bay, and in Kensington. The reduced rainfall is having a terrible impact on these systems. Now, in many ways, what has affected the parish of Portland is a bit of a perfect storm, and I think Minister Vaz has articulated it in other spaces. But the perfect storm has, been impacted by the roadwork. I think that is impatient of debate. But one of the issues related to the roadwork that has not come forward in discussion, I don't think is widely understood by citizens in the space, and perhaps that is our doing, and we'll have to do a lot of work to ensure that they understand. Because the very roadwork that has caused some of the discomfort, certainly because of the dust nuisance, and certainly because of the conditions of the road, has also caused some of the water disruption. But that road work is not simply widening of a road surface. It involves significant investment in the infrastructure for the water for the people of Portland. The systems in Portland, and anyone who has visited it, who has family there, are all outdated. They have suffered from a chronic lack of investment over the last 60 years. And it is this government that is implementing a $2.4 billion investment program into the water mains along the South Coast Highway, a large portion of which is indeed into Portland. The very cost of materials for Portland for that pipe laying is $800 million. So what we're investing in is the greatest improvement in the supply lines for the people of Portland, certainly since independence, and that should not be lost. Now, that doesn't mean that we are not deeply concerned about the impact that it is having on the people of Portland. We have to be. It has deeply affected several businesses, and it has made the quality of life there deteriorate. And it is our job to ensure that we recover that quality of life, and indeed, at the end of the work, they have a better quality of life because of reliable water supply at the end. Now, there's some additional work that we have to do, that the government has committed to do, and is progressing apace. And I would like to bring the members of the media up to date on where these particular projects indeed are. One of the main water supply areas for Portland is indeed the Grants Level well. With the developments projected, and indeed to meet the increases in population and density requirements, there will be a $3.9 billion upgrade of the Grants Level well. We are going through the technical processes. The Prime Minister would have alluded to the PIAB process yesterday. This will be supported indeed by the NHT to deal with existing schemes and schemes to come, and will obviously be undertaken by the NWC. That project is proceeding apace, and we expect within the next fiscal year to break ground. That project will include installation of a new well, will also include significant upgrade of the electrical capacity and a new transmission line. That will come next year and will connect to the mains that exist there now. Now, there are some pain points, some smaller projects that impact the people as they live now and impact what they would have had as their existing reliability before. Certainly, one of the areas that I think have had some protests are the areas that are supplied by the Mount Pleasant system. Important for citizens to note, we are already in procurement for 2 new pumps, which are aged pumps, just like many of the other pumps right across the country. We are committed to spending $20 million when that procurement process is complete. The bids, as I understand it, are to come in next week. Because of the size of the project and the nature of the pumps, these pumps will be installed within 2 months once that process is complete. That will significantly improve the reliability for the persons in Ferry Hill and along that main corridor. Another area that I think has been the source of quite a bit of discontent has been the communities that surround the Sherwood Forest system. The wells there are inadequate as they are. The wells have been impacted severely by drought. We have done significant studies through the Water Resources Authority at the cost, in partnership with the NWC, of $12 million, and we have identified additional source water. Once the studies are complete and the license is issued by WRA, which we expect to be within the next 30 days, we will commence $30 million of work in well development in Sherwood Forest. This will significantly improve the supply in this area. There is a major win that we've had in recent times also. We've identified a new source after significant study in Ferry Hill. This will provide some 300,000 gallons a day, which will provide reliable water 7 days a week to the residents of Ferry Hill for over 2,500 households. Now, important to note, because I would have seen the recent videos of protests, and I understand the frustration. I also understand perhaps those who are willing for political reasons to play on that frustration. While the protest was taking place, there was actual testing of the water main lines. So if you look at some of the videos, you actually see the water testing facility in the background doing what it's, during the sterilization and testing process, it actually sprays up through these small blue pipes. You actually see them in the background spraying. So though the main work is complete, we've actually found additional source water which will connect to the system and will ensure that the people of Ferry Hill indeed have more reliable water than they ever have previously. And I think that's important to note. But we're not taking for granted that while this work is taking place, people can do without water. Previous to what I'd classify as the crisis brought on by the drought, Portland would have had 4 trucks in and around the area that would have generally serviced the needs of NWC and the parish council. We have increased that to 7, totally insufficient. We will again this morning, having gone through the appropriate commercial processes and negotiations, increase that by a further 2 trucks that will work 18 hours a day in delivery to those that are most impacted. So while simultaneously moving further and getting progress with the existing work that is underway, identifying new sources, we are increasing the capacity of the emergency response. Now, what this crisis has done, it has forced us to look at across all the eastern parishes the varying pain points, as we would classify them, with small systems, municipal systems, that require small upgrades, sometimes that can unleash hundreds and thousands of gallons to persons. As I see Minister Morgan looking in my direction, I can advise him also that that analysis actually started on Monday in Clarendon. But having received the report for Portland, I'm happy to report that we've identified $48 million of small projects that will significantly improve the reliability of parish systems, and that money is being allocated as per normal government procedures. So I wish to assure the persons of Portland that your cries have not stayed in Portland. I certainly get the calls, the ferocious calls from both of your representatives in Portland many more times a day than I would like to admit. But the government of Jamaica is investing at a rate that it never has in the water reliability and stability and resilience of Portland. When these projects are complete, which they will in an iterative way, you'll see benefits within a month, because we are progressing apace as per the South Coast Highway, and with new systems and with mechanical work that is being done. But every month for the next 2 years, the situation will improve dramatically. And we are giving you our commitment that while that work is underway, you will continue to see the work done that deals with areas, certainly by way of trucking. There's one final initiative in closing that I would like to touch on. The Prime Minister announced in his budget presentation that over the next 3 years, we would distribute 50,000 water tanks. It would be supported by the appropriate rainwater harvesting infrastructure. We will commence that process in June. That process will be supported by trainees from HART, from the parishes, that will be taught how to implement these systems. It will hire thousands of young people across the country. We obviously, because of the weather forecast that we see, will have to give particular focus to the east and the south central parishes in the island, as they are the ones being mostly affected by the impact of the El Nino phenomenon. But this is important to note. A parish like Portland, we've done the mapping. We've done it right across the country, actually, of where the utility footprint ends and where parish systems and persons that are not served are. Those areas require rainwater harvesting. We've also done the mapping with the NWC to identify areas that are underserved, whether because of sourcing issues or because of creaking infrastructure that desperately needs to be upgraded. That map is complete for Portland. We have identified the areas that will require some 1,100 tanks, and the procurement is indeed underway. We will roll out the national program, but Portland will obviously start to see the benefit of those 1,100 tanks in June, certainly early July. I should have said, with the new 300,000 gallon source that we've identified, I've insisted and instructed that the NWC complete the commercial negotiations associated with the source within 30 to 45 days. Obviously, this is overseen by the OUR. Once complete, that work will take 90 days. So, ladies and gentlemen, in closing, we are seized of the issues affecting the eastern end of the island. I'm prepared to update on St. Thomas and St. Mary at future sittings, because we're doing the technical work there as well. We've been meeting with the municipal corporations and indeed their members of parliaments and their citizens associations. We're very clear on the issues there. But we are clear that Portland has been disproportionately affected. We're clear that the persons have suffered through it, and we're putting in place what we need to do to alleviate that suffering. I thank you.
Thank you, Minister Samuda, for that very important update. Minister Samuda follows on the Prime Minister, who made a presentation to Parliament last evening on the same matter, where he announced for the next budget, additionally, $1 billion for rural water projects as well, which is very important for MPs like myself who come from country. And I want to thank Minister Samuda for his presentation. I would ask, before Minister Johnson-Smith attends upon the platform, for Minister Vaz to give us a short, I know you have a presentation today, right? Yes, so I want to invite you up as well.
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, members of the media. I definitely have not been in this room for many moons, but glad to be back. So let me start by saying that based on Minister Samuda's response, what you heard was what the role of a member of parliament is, and that is to lobby for better infrastructure and the betterment of the people of the constituency that they serve. There seems to be some sort of a confusion or a mix-up where MPs often get blamed for things that they have no control over. We lobby for better infrastructure, but we have no control over the implementation and supervision of such. So I start by making that clarification. Portland has gone from the parish with the most water and the most rainfall to the least. And that has happened in short period of time for no other reason than climate change. So for those who still believe that climate change is on the way or it doesn't exist, we are feeling the effects. And as Minister Samuda said, it's going to get worse, not better, specifically in Portland over the next few months. So what we have is a chronic drought in Portland, which the people are not accustomed to. So that makes it even worse in terms of the misery index and the frustration by the people. Because whereas when they don't get water in their pipes, they have alternate sources that they use, such as springs and rivers and that sort of thing. So aside and apart from the drought, we have a situation where we have 12 of the 17 minor water supplies. Those are supplies that are operated by the local municipal council that are not producing the water that is required to serve the communities. We have 9 of 13 of the major water supplies that is operated by the National Water Commission that are not producing. The balance of these water supplies are under regulation, meaning that they are serving several communities and they have to be alternating day by day. So communities that get water on a Monday may not necessarily get water back until Friday or the weekend, which is totally unacceptable because obviously of what the Water Commission says, water is life. There's no two ways about that. Compounded, you have, as Minister Samuda admitted, old assets, old pumps, old impellers, all sorts of problems because of the lack of investment in the infrastructure over the last 60 years. So with that, what is the response? The response is trucking. From January to April, between the Municipal Council and the Water Commission, we spent $10 million on trucking. Just for May to June, it is projected because of the increase in the drought to spend another $10 million. So we are increasing the amount of funds. However, realistically, trucking is not effective. It's not cost effective and it's not effective. Why is that? Because the geographics of the constituency and the parish. There is no way that you can service from Hector's River, the border of St. Thomas and Portland, to Dover, the boundary of St. Mary and St. Anne. St. Mary and Portland. So those of you who know a little about Portland would know that 5 truck, 7 truck, 9 truck, 10 truck, not going to do it. And also, most importantly, what is important for me is that the Municipal Council and the Water Commission take 2 policy decisions. That is to serve the entire community. In a drought such as this, you cannot be discriminatory in terms of being able to serve only customers, paying customers, because you're not satisfying the demand of the water. So I've already spoken to Minister Samuda about that, and I hope that that directive will be given, because that's also a cause for he's just telling me that it has been given. That is a cause for added frustration. The second thing is that I am asking for better public relation and public education. Another reason for the misery index is that the people don't know when they're getting water, either through the pipe or through trucking. And I'm calling on the Municipal Council and the Water Commission to set up community meetings and find a way to publicize the schedules of the water delivery, both in terms of the truck and in the pipes. I'm also asking that whereas the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation doesn't have responsibility for the minor water supplies, I know that there's constraints. And I'm asking at the local government level in terms of funding. And we have identified $40 million worth of repairs that can be done that will help, especially in the minor water supplies. So that's in relation to the water. I will now touch briefly on the roads, because that's also a cause of great frustration. So we have 6 packages that are being done in Portland. The value of those 6 packages is $10 billion. B billion, not M million, B billion. Think of that, as Minister Samuda said earlier. $10 billion on 6 packages in Portland. That covers 43 kilometers of roadway that is going to be done in phases. 2 phases have already been completed, and the two that are causing the problem now are scheduled to be completed by October this year, and the final 2 are going to be issued by June for completion end of 2024. But you're not only getting the road, you're getting the infrastructure of the road. You're getting the drainage, you're getting the retaining walls, you're getting the utility conduits, you're getting water and sewage. Major infrastructure for Portland based on what we plan for Portland. So these subcontracts, China Harbour is the main contractor and local contractors are the subcontractors. For the level of money that is being spent, I openly say that the supervision of these roadworks are unacceptable. Unacceptable not because of the quality of work, unacceptable because of the maintenance of the temporary roads and the dust nuisance. Now, where I can say that the drought has affected the dust nuisance, because I've witnessed the water trucks wetting the road and I've timed it. Less than 15 minutes with the drought and the heat that we are experiencing, that road becomes dusty and dirty again because of, obviously, the heat. So that can't work anymore. As a result, I have made representation to the National Works Agency, and they have agreed that despite the fact that the road is not ready for paving, we will oil the roads immediately. So it means that we'll have to oil them twice. Oil them now to suppress the dust, and oil them again when you are preparing for final paving. That, to me, will reduce the dust nuisance in the drought, and of course, with the summer heat that we are going to face. So I want to say very clearly that increased supervision by the main contractor and the government's agency, NWA, over the subcontractors has to be almost on a daily basis now, not a weekly visit or a bi-weekly visit, because the roads are totally unacceptable, temporary roads. I drive them and I can just imagine, with the delay because of supply chain, these roads should have been completed already, but we have had supply chains because of COVID. So in saying that, I want to wrap up by apologizing for the inconvenience as a member of parliament and on behalf of the other member of parliament, despite the fact that we as member of parliament have no input. The people that we serve are suffering the most, and I want to unreservedly apologize in relation to the situation with the dust and the roads. I also want to close by saying that the disruptions that we are seeing by the orchestrated demonstrations are not helping anybody. It's not going to help how much quicker you get water, because this is not man-made. Man can't fix this. Neither can a woman fix it. This is going to require the intervention of the Almighty to bless us with some showers. We have 9 divisions in Portland Municipal Council. 9. All 9 of them are suffering, some more than some because of roadworks, but in terms of drought, all are suffering. Yet still, we are seeing demonstrations almost on a weekly basis coming out of one division. One division. And in that one division is where a political aspirant is trying to make his name. So I don't need to say anything more. If it is one division that is having these constant demonstrations and none of the other 8, I leave it for you to be the judge. And I'm saying to all well-thinking Portlanders, let us work together, let us reason together, let us communicate together so that we can find the best way to go through these challenging times, which are not expected to ease between now and July of this year. So it's not a situation where it's 1 day or 1 month left. I commit to continuing to do my job, which is to lobby to make sure that the conditions are better, both in terms of water and road in the ensuing months. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Vaz, for that very comprehensive update on the situation in Portland, both east and west. And also, I want to thank Minister Samuda, who's not here anymore, as he's actually now on his way to the airport. He has a very important official matter to deal with overseas. Minister Vaz, I think you are doing your presentation today as well. So we can listen to him at Parliament for some updates on his ministry. At this time, I would like to welcome the rose among the many thorns, Senator the Honorable Kamina Johnson-Smith, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, who has some very important updates about some matters that are to take place shortly here in Jamaica. Minister.
Thank you very much, my colleague ministers, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, joining us online. Good morning, and I'm really pleased to be here to join another post-cabinet press briefing to update our country on the work of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. I want to share with you that the ministry is preparing to take on a significant regional role and to make a significant step with one of our strongest and longest by serving bilateral partners. In this context, I'm pleased to announce that next week, Jamaica will, through the Foreign Ministry, welcome at least 18 international delegations to Kingston for participation in the following meetings. The 26th regular meeting of the CARICOM Council of Foreign and Community Relations from the 16th and 17th of May, the 11th UK Caribbean Forum on the 18th of May, and the inaugural Jamaica-UK Strategic Dialogue on the 19th of May. With regard to the CARICOM Council of Foreign and Community Relations, the COFCOR, Jamaica is proud to be assuming its year-long chairmanship of the conference, or rather of the council, at this 26th regular meeting. The COFCOR consists of the ministers responsible for foreign affairs of the 14 independent states of CARICOM, and it is the organ of CARICOM through which the community pursues closer foreign relations and indeed its foreign policy coordination in accordance with the treaty. The 26th regular meeting will engage, therefore, on coordinating or seeking to coordinate regional positions on issues including candidatures, ministerial meetings which are upcoming, bilateral and bi-regional relations with extra-regional partners, the situation in Haiti, multilateral and hemispheric relations in the context of the UN, the OAS, the CELAC, and the Association of Caribbean States. We will also be treating with climate change and various matters related to, of course, climate action and climate financing. The Council will also engage with the State Minister of Foreign Affairs of Japan, who will be attending, and Secretary of State from Spain. The 26th regular meeting will be the first in-person meeting of the Council since 2019, and therefore all my colleagues have assured me how much they're looking forward to being here for that meeting, and the CARICOM Secretariat will provide administrative support. We will be pleased to be welcoming the Secretary General of CARICOM for the very first official visit that she will make to Jamaica in this capacity, and to recognize that the period during which Jamaica will chair the COFCOR, CARICOM will also be celebrating its 50th anniversary, and therefore the Secretary General will not only have the opportunity to be engaging with us in the context of COFCOR, but to commence her activities as well in respect of the 50th anniversary. I want to share also in respect of the 11th UK Caribbean Forum. In addition to promoting and enhancing relations among CARICOM member states, the chair of COFCOR will be responsible for coordinating the community's positions on relations with states outside CARICOM. And it is in this capacity as COFCOR chair, therefore, that Jamaica will assume co-chairmanship with the United Kingdom of this 11th forum on the 18th of May. So we very much look forward to welcoming the Right Honourable James Cleverly, Foreign Secretary, to co-chair this meeting with me, as this forum is the foremost mechanism for political consultation between the United Kingdom and the member states of CARIFORUM, that is CARICOM and the Dominican Republic. And furthermore, the forum traditionally invites Cuba to attend in an observer capacity, and that is a matter which we continue to work at. The 11th UK Caribbean Forum will provide an opportunity to take stock of progress since the last meeting, which addressed the 10th UK Caribbean Forum Action Plan, and to seek to advance discussions on deeper cooperation in areas such as trade and investment, financing for development, climate change and the environment, immigration and Windrush, food security, health, education, and of course, as mentioned before, the situation in Haiti will continue to thread through. The meeting is a deliberate, or rather provides for deliberation and formal consultation, so it will provide for this type of formal foreign relations engagement between CARICOM member states and the UK. It will be the first in-person staging since the 9th forum in 2016, so again is one which is quite anticipated. The third meeting is the inaugural Jamaica-UK Strategic Dialogue. So as the title suggests, it will be the first ever such meeting, and it signals the recognition of both sides that there is need for a formal mechanism to promote and to enhance how it is we engage as partners on developmental and other matters. Our bilateral relations have, of course, always been dynamic and robust, but it is important for us to structure our discussions more effectively, and therefore this meeting will enhance our abilities and capacities in that regard. On the agenda will be matters including health, security, trade and investment, development, cooperation and financing, climate change, consular and diaspora matters, again, including the 75th anniversary of Windrush. And I want to just say that I am so very pleased that these meetings have received very positive responses from colleague foreign ministers, and that other ministers or ministries that will be included in our delegations on the Jamaica side will include the Ministries of Economic Growth and Job Creation, National Security, Education and Youth, Health and Wellness, Industry, Investment and Commerce, and of course the JDF and PIOJ, given their roles as well. In summary, Jamaica's chairmanship of these three meetings, Jamaica's chairmanship of COFCOR and co-chairmanship of the UK engagements, will afford Jamaica and the region a unique opportunity to advance national and regional strategic priorities. And the historic convening of the Jamaica-UK Strategic Dialogue in particular will undoubtedly further strengthen our relations between Jamaica and the UK. We are confident that our hosting of these three meetings will hold positive benefits for Jamaica and the region. Finally, I just want to say that I do continue to feel truly blessed and grateful to lead the talented and dedicated staff at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, who have been working extremely hard at the technical, political, diplomatic, and all the procedural details that are required to support the success of these meetings. And in the exercise of our duties as chair, Jamaica will be required to exercise greater leadership at the forefront of many matters in regional and extra-regional affairs over the year to come. So we look forward to a challenging and exciting year, to keeping you updated so that you can in turn keep the people of Jamaica updated as well, and that we can understand how it is that Jamaica continues to play a significant role in the region and, of course, beyond. I want to just also state, because I think it's important, Minister Morgan referred earlier to the matter of press freedom, and I just want to say that Jamaica's ranking on the Global Press Freedom Index has always been, or has been, a significant source of pride for us internationally and a source of great admiration. So while it is that we do continue to examine the change in methodology and the various considerations that may have been taken in consideration, which resulted in our change in ranking, I just want to say how much it is important for us to continue the work as well, media and government, as well as all stakeholders, to promote the understanding of the importance to a democracy of a free press, and how it is that we as a government continue to support and encourage and uplift media. I want to say that I personally empathize with Ms. Jackson, and I send out my admiration for the strength that she has demonstrated in the face of threat. I want to say how heartened I am by the discussions that have been taking place. I've been hearing them on the airwaves by men and women in recognizing that a threat of rape is never acceptable. It is not acceptable to the public. It is not acceptable to the media. It is not acceptable. And I am hearing a greater recognition of this, and it fills me with hope that Jamaica will continue to work through not only matters of rising once more in the media freedom ranking, but also dealing with the horror of rape culture that continues to allow for some persons and some personalities to normalize its use and to normalize the threats. And we must never accept it we must never accept it. I think perhaps this will assist in creating a turning point. Thank you, Minister Morgan.
Thank you very much, Minister Johnson-Smith. Really appreciate, and I trust members of the media also appreciate those comments as well as your updates. We will now begin taking questions, as is customary. Please identify yourself and your media house, and our press secretary, Naomi Francis, will offer you a microphone for you to ask your question. I think we have the first question from Nationwide, Ms. Francis. Do we have another?
Here we go.
Thank you very much.
Morning, Minister Alexander Scott, Nationwide News. Question for the Foreign Affairs Minister Johnson-Smith. as it relates to the upcoming forums which are set to be taking place, just a question about well, you mentioned Haiti, that's going to be on the topic for discussion. How far along are we with the convening of the, I guess, for want of a better word, summits with the government and the opposition in Jamaica to hash things out in that country? Another question, if you don't mind. This would have been posed, I guess, to Minister Vaz, but he's not here, so I am sorry. But the status with Venezuela and the Petrocaribe Fund, I'm just wondering how that is going, if that's going at all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Scott. Regarding Haiti, I imagine that we will provide a more substantive update after the meetings. Myself and the Secretary General are actually to sit down in Guatemala. I'm scheduled to leave here shortly to go to Guatemala to attend the Council of Ministers of the Association of Caribbean States and to represent the Prime Minister at the summit of the ACS as well. And the SG and I will meet there. We have been making progress in planning the meeting, which includes, of course, the persons who will participate in that meeting. So you have framed it in a particular way. It may not be comprised in that particular way. As indicated, Jamaica has offered to host, with some international support, a meeting to facilitate greater consensus building in respect of the various stakeholders in Haiti towards a return to peace and stability, which would address clearly matters of political discord as well as the security circumstances. I can share that in respect of the matter of training of HNP personnel, we have made significant progress in that regard, and work continues. Work is actually taking place on the ground now with international partners, also discussing feasibility and other related matters. So our commitment remains strong, and the work is continuing behind the scenes, really across borders quite widely, to ensure that that better resourced international players keep the matter on their forefront and are willing to support as well, and that we provide the best mechanism for that to take place. And this requires quite a bit of coordination within CARICOM as well. So I hope that helps to hold for the moment. But I will be happy to update you again in the future. On the matter of Petrocaribe, I'm sure Minister Vaz would be more minded to speak on that matter. What I can say, though, is that in terms of the matter of sanctions, they remain in place, and the regard that the Jamaican government paid to these sanctions and the protection of the Jamaican banking system in that regard, as had required us to take fairly strong measures to protect Petrojam and to protect our banking system. Those have not changed, even while external discussions have reflected changing or potentially changing geopolitical circumstances. The knock-on impact of that has not yet changed, and I think that maybe has even been recognized by countries that have been saying that they're entering into relations. They have had to seek licenses, which have been quite complex in their delivery, and had significant constraints and conditionalities placed on them, which has not really allowed the flexibility that was desired in the first place. So in respect of any other matters, I'm sure Minister Vaz would be better placed, but is speaking within the geopolitical context and the matter of sanctions, I can say that that remains the position.
Thank you, Minister. Another question?
Yes, we do. All right. Good morning. Sashana Small from the Jamaica Gleaner. My question is for Minister Morgan. How does the government intend to address the concerns expressed by teachers regarding the discrepancies in their compensation review?
What I am aware of is that the Minister of Education, in consultation with the Minister of Finance, they have set up a task force to look specifically at these discrepancies so that we can quickly reach a resolution. So there is work being done. There is a recognition that there are challenges and discrepancies within the payment system as it relates to the compensation. And that is being addressed by this task force that has been set up by Minister Favour Williams.
Thank you, Minister. Another question?
Morning again. Liver and Barrett.
There seems to be an issue with the mics today. Is it possible we could correct that, please, including my mic?
Are we okay now? Testing. Morning again, Minister. My question is for Minister Johnson Smith. It is in relation, insofar as the donations from corporate entities in relation to the Fin Partners payment. I wondered, one, if the acceptance of gift form was completed as is required by law, and two, whether or not those funds were deposited in the government's accounts.
Can I stop you before you go any further?
As appropriation in aid.
A gentleman has brought a matter before the courts in relation to everything that you've just asked a while ago. It would be highly inappropriate for the government at a post-cabinet press briefing to comment on a matter that is currently before the courts. So I must apologize, but we cannot, in good order, offer any comments whatsoever on that matter which is before the courts. Do we have another question?
Yes, yes, we do.
Thank you. Minister Johnson Smith again. Hi. As it relates to the, I guess, increase in illegal migration out of Jamaica into Canada, the US, these places. What is how far along is our discussions with, and what is being done with partners to close these channels, for want of a better word, close these channels? I recall that there was discussion with these partners that Panama may have taken some action, but what steps are we taking?
Thank you for your question, and which keeps alive the matter of the importance of persons taking informed decisions on how it is they choose to seek opportunities elsewhere, or to flee the jurisdiction, which is another unfortunate way in which illegal migration manifests itself. The Jamaican government itself is not seeking to, quote unquote, close any channel per se. So I'm not sure if that was your query. We are seeking to inform people and to ensure that our border control is optimal in the sense of ensuring that our passport and immigration and citizenship agency provides documentation which is appropriate, trusted, and honored by not only our citizens, but by our international partners. In respect of what is happening overseas, I know that we have all seen in the media that the US is changing some of its rules in respect of granting of asylum because of the numbers of persons that are arriving at its borders. You alluded to the efforts, the cooperative efforts between Panama and the US and Colombia in respect of certain known illegal and unsafe pathways. And we continue to monitor those. We know that our mission in the US, not only in our embassy in DC, but the consulates general continue to be very sensitive to the movement of people and to any announcements to understand them better in terms of their implications for Jamaicans who may be caught in some of these processes. But in terms of a deliberate engagement, in terms of outflow, Jamaica's actions are really across the piece in terms of our border control that affects both incoming and outgoing, as opposed to anything specific on illegal migration. I'm not sure if I'm stating that extremely clearly, but it's because it's so sensitive, I'm trying to be delicate. I do want to share, though, that we have just this week has come to my attention that a young man who had been missing in Mexico has now been identified as having died. He was regrettably an unidentified person found on a street in Mexico, and his family had no idea where he was. And the persons who were supposed to have been traveling with him became uncontactable by the family. And however, some efforts were made by our embassy in Mexico to reach out to the department that is responsible for identification of personnel and of persons. It was found that the young gentleman, young Jamaican citizen, was identified as having had an autopsy performed on him, but not having been a body claimed. And we will be working with the family to see what we can do in terms of the repatriation of the body. And again, just recognize that these things are not easily, they're not a bed of roses. And the story that these scammers and smugglers sell to individuals in vulnerable communities is not, they shouldn't be trusted. They should not be trusted. I believe there's another developing situation on which I will update in short order, but perhaps it's at an earlier stage, but it involves kidnappings. And I thank you for asking the question, because it allows me to just repeat something which I might not otherwise possibly have shared. But there are real consequences to trying to enter the U.S. illegally, or any other country for that matter. And we really encourage Jamaicans to take a second and a third thought before it is that they take that decision.
Thank you, Minister. We have time for a few more. We're actually over the 1 hour mark, but we can accommodate a few more. Sure.
Minister Johnson Smith, I just wanted, if you could, what you shared with us just now, if you could give us a little bit more details. For example, did the family indicate how the gentleman got overseas, what route he took? Did they share the information of that sort in terms of how he got there? And secondly, are our embassies in some of those countries reporting back to us an increase in the number of Jamaicans who are seeking this type of assistance? Persons who may have, migrated illegally, run into some difficulties and are seeking assistance from the embassies in some of these countries.
Sorry, just to share, they didn't share the exact route, but as I've shared to you, he died in Mexico, so we know that that is where he traveled to. The issue of increased reporting, I want to just remind you, these are persons who are traveling illegally. They do not generally contact us. Sometimes they don't want family to contact us. There are issues with even the family's knowledge of the persons with whom they are traveling, because this is illicit activity. It is not legal activity. Some of the people who come to notice when they have made it into the U.S., been detained, and are being deported. And that is the only point at which they come to our notice. That is, they have been through the cycle, and this can be a very short period of time, you would be surprised, or it can be longer, because they have managed, maybe they elude for 6 months, and then, they need a passport, or it is that they have been signaled for deportation, and that that latter category is the larger category. So again, even when they feel that they can make it through, it doesn't mean that you will be able to stay. I can't share details about these matters because of the nature in which they come about. And people, as I said, people are sensitive even to information being shared with their families. People are deported and the family doesn't know because they never admit that the method by which they tried to travel or the method by which they return. And this we have to be sensitive to within the ministry.
Thank you very much, Minister. Next question, final one, I guess.
Let's give it to Halshay. Yes.
Morning, Halshay Burke, Radio Jamaica News. To Minister, Minister Johnson-Smith, you spoke to deportation. Are we seeing an increase in the number of persons being deported, and what are the numbers that we're seeing year over year, if you can provide any figures?
Sorry. I don't have those figures with me now. Clearly, we know that deportations from Panama have increased significantly because they are a route through which people go to Mexico, to the US, to Belize. We don't have direct flights to these countries, so that the deportation records from Panama have increased significantly. I think I had shared those figures recently, but the overall deportation figures, I would need to check those because they, I think, might not. Well, let me just say, let me check those. And we can share them on another occasion.
Right. That's it. Want to thank all members of the media who have attended upon this week's installation of the post-cabinet press briefing. I want to also thank those online who are listening, and also our support team, our cameramen from all media houses, Jamaica Information Service, PBCJ, as well as the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Minister Johnson-Smith. Mr. Vaz was here earlier, as well as Minister Samuda. Thank you very much again. Wishing you a wonderful day, a peaceful day. Please be safe. And until next week, Wednesday at 8 a.m., when we will reconvene for another post-cabinet press briefing. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.